I would like to tell you a little bit about our next presenter, Rotary International Director, Dr. Stephanie Urchick. Dr. Urchick is on the Rotary International Board of Directors and serves as the chair of its executive committee. She is a member of the Rotary Club of McMurray, has served as foundation trustee. She is the chair of Rotary Strategic Planning. Director Stephanie is the coordinator of Rotary Works. If you haven't heard about it, Rotary Works is an initiative provided for Rotarians and Rotaractors within our zones 33 and 34 experiencing career transition. She has been a moderator, a training leader, regional foundation coordinator. She has served on multitude of Rotary International committees and in many club and district foundation roles. A Rotarian since 1991, Stephanie has participated in a variety of international service projects, including National Immunization Days in Nigeria and India, the building of an elementary school in Vietnam, water filter installation in the Dominican Republic, mentoring new Rotarians in the Ukraine. As a note, the Rotary Club of Krakow, Poland has noted Director Stephanie as one of the agents in helping the rebirth of Rotary in post-communist Poland. Wow. Currently, Stephanie is helping to partner clubs and districts in the US with Rotary clubs in Kosovo and Albania for educational and humanitarian services. Let's welcome to Zoom Rotary International Director, Dr. Stephanie Urchick. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Marie. It's a pleasure to be with everybody this morning, especially those of you who are in this role as president-elects. I'm sure you've heard this over your training, but you'll hear it again. The most important person in Rotary is the club president, because whatever is on your radar screen is what's going to happen. So today, I've been asked by your district governor-elects to talk with you about RI strategic plan. All right, I know what you're thinking. It's Saturday. Good Lord, what were these gentlemen thinking? Strategic planning? But listen, I promise in the amount of time I have with you, I really am going to help demystify what the RI strategic plan is. But more importantly, what do we as Rotary leaders do with it? How do we get this information into our clubs? Because that's where the magic of Rotary happens. So to begin, you may be wondering, why does this slide say action plan and not strategic plan? Well, when we started the process, the Strategic Planning Committee was charged with developing strategies that would move our organization forward. But when we launched 2 years ago, we recognized that, we all come to Rotary with different reasons and stories, and we have reasons why we stay in Rotary, but there's one thing that we have in common, and that is we are people of action. So it has become the action plan. So let's start with the next slide. To give you a little bit of information about how this was developed, one of the first things the Strategic Planning Committee did was look at each other and say, we're not writing a single word of this plan. Instead, we went out to the Rotary world. Our constitutional documents in Rotary provide that once every 3 years, we must survey our membership to find out how are we doing. So we used that opportunity and we took the survey and added to it. And in addition to sending it to Rotarians, we included non-Rotarians, we included former Rotarians, we included Rotaractors, Interactors, alumni, just about anybody for whom we had contact information. And we sent those surveys out, and you can see that we had a really significant response rate. The second thing we did was conduct focus groups. We were working with a consulting partner from New York that did have offices around the globe, and we took advantage of that. And, if you've ever participated in a focus group, it's a little bit different from a survey. A survey is a very independent activity. You sit in front of a computer or you have a paper and pencil, but in a focus group, you're in a room or you're in a breakout room on Zoom. And as you listen to other people answer questions, it may trigger things that you may have forgotten. So focus group research is a lot like peeling away the layers of an onion. You really get to the core issues. And you can see that we had more than 400 people participate, and we did that in 29 different countries. Didn't stop there though. We did one more thing. We did in-depth interviews. We talked to our own staff, who are, of course, people who work with Rotary. And we talked to the staff in Evanston, as well as all of the offices around the globe. When we were done gathering all of that information, we realized that we had information and input from all the zones in the Rotary world, from all levels of Rotarians, people who had been in Rotary for 1 year to over 50 years, all ages and all roles. If we go to the next slide, you'll see there's a little bit more information. So we actually did 74 of those focus groups and in-depth interviews, and you can see how many people participated. This slide says 28 countries, but I'm pretty sure it's 29. So what was the first thing we did with all of this information? Well, as a committee, we looked at all of it and we were looking for phrases that resonated with Rotarians. We put those all together and created what you have probably seen is our vision statement. And our next slide shows you that statement. We see a world where people unite, they take action, they create lasting change across the globe, in the communities, and in ourselves. Now, those last 3 words, in ourselves, are the most significant of this entire vision statement for me, because I've been in Rotary more than 30 years, and this is the first time the organization is recognizing that when we serve others, they not only benefit, but we benefit as well. So that is a significant part of this statement. After we released the vision statement, our job then as a committee was to go back to the data and start to look for strategies, ideas for action that would move us as an organization forward. And our next slide shows what the 4 priority areas are. You can also see them behind me with the 4 Rotarians who are modeling shirts and their backsides. So we wanted to increase our impact and our reach. We wanted to make sure we were being expansive, and we wanted to engage in our participants, and we wanted to make sure that we could increase our ability to adapt. So I want to talk a little bit about each of these. If we go to the next slide, we'll start with the first one, increasing our impact. This is the priority that talks about measurement. And I got to tell you, as an organization, we have never been really good at this. Now, I have 2 stories to illustrate. The first one, how many of you were in Rotary in 2017 and 18 when Ian Risley was president? Do you remember what he asked us to do? He asked us to plant trees, right? And what did we do? We went out and planted trees, 1 tree for every member in our club. And we counted up all those numbers and sent it off to Rotary. And that's where it ended. We didn't take it far enough to determine the impact that project had. It was great, a great environmental project. In measurement, there is input, output, outcome, and impact. So we really needed to do a little bit more to get to that impact statement. We could have done some research to find out, how did planting those millions of trees impact soil erosion? Or what impact did it have on CO2? But we didn't. We did not. It was a bad project. It was fabulous, and I hope we do it again. But contrast that with our polio eradication program. Here's a program that, since its inception, we were able to say strong statements about impact and sustainability. When we got involved in that in the mid-'80s, we were able to say even then that when polio is eradicated, there will be 11 million children every year that won't get this disease. Every year, the US will save approximately, or the world will save approximately 85 million US dollars that we don't spend on ancillary polio-related healthcare. So we've always been able to make strong impact statements, and that is what caught the attention of partners. When we started in the mid-'80s, we had a handful. Today we have more than a dozen. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Health Organization, the Gavi Vaccine Alliance. So if we want to attract as an organization and as clubs, more partners, more donors, and more collaboration and more members, we really need to be serious about how we measure the impact of the jobs that we do and the projects that we do. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's go to the next slide. The next slide is the one that says, you know, we really need to grow and diversify our membership. Our Council on Legislation in 2016 opened the door for us here. That's the council that created e-clubs and corporate clubs and cause-based clubs and satellite clubs. And it really gave us opportunities to present a way for people to come into Rotary if it didn't fit into the existing legacy model. Legacy clubs are not going to go away. My club is a legacy model. My president-elect is on this call, and Marcy and I, we love our club. All right, I go anytime I'm in town, I'm there. Or if I'm Zooming and I can make it, I'll be there. I love my club. But it got me to thinking about my community in North Strabane Township and Peters Township. How many people cannot get away at Wednesday at noontime to get to a club meeting, even if it's on Zoom? How many teachers are teaching during that time? How many healthcare professionals or other kinds of service people have clients and patients? So our area really is ripe for expansion if we would look at a different kind of model. I don't know how many of you have seen the Rotary video called Any Town. If you haven't, you need to look at it. It's on Vimeo. It is the single best Rotary video I have ever seen, and it talks about this very issue. Now, bringing a second club into a community is not a death knell for the first one. It's a lot like what happens at an intersection. If a gas station moves in one corner, and then a bank, and then a pharmacy, and then a fast food establishment, everybody benefits because more people are attracted to that location because there's more happening. The same thing is true for Rotary. So when we think about expanding our openness and our appeal, it really means that we're going to share the brand, the Rotary brand, in a more open way. The next slide is the one I like to talk about the most. It talks about how do we bring value to our participants. Now, participant means more than member, although member is the core part. A participant is anybody that comes into the magic of Rotary. It could be interactors, it could be parents of students of the month, it could be people who benefit by the service we provide. So we want to be thinking about how do we create approaches in our clubs that deliver value to the people who engage with us. You know, in previous Rotary material, I had noticed that a lot of times they talked about doing exit interviews. Well, guess what? That's the wrong time to talk to a Rotarian. If a person has made up his or her mind that they're leaving, we can't get useful information necessarily. It's much better to talk to them at the front end. Let's do entrance interviews and find out more about the people coming into our clubs. 2 weeks ago, I was on a Zoom call with a club and they did something really interesting. They had something called Rotarian of the Week. And the person knows ahead of time that they are the person Rotarian of the Week. And sometimes it's a new member and sometimes it's a legacy member. And then they have a Rotarian ask that Rotarian of the Week questions. Who invited you to Rotary? When did you join? What attracted you to this club? What keeps you in this club? Tell us about your family. What's your profession? What's one thing about you that we couldn't tell from your bio? And it's a way for that member to feel valued. And it's a way for other club members to hear about that particular member. And it was just a fabulous way, as President Holger says, to show that we care about the people that belong to our clubs. At the RI level, one of the things that we were hearing was that younger professionals wanted more skill development. So you may have heard that 2 years ago, Rotary partnered with Toastmasters and created a co-branded project. It's a product that exists on our Learning Center. And so for any Rotarian or any Rotaractor who wants to develop better speaking skills, project management, leadership, that's a place that they can find it. So it was a way for Rotary to look at how are we delivering value. Let's move to the next slide. And the next slide, oh my gosh, this is the one that we are in overdrive here. Think about this. A year ago, the way that we did Rotary was absolutely ripped from us. Couldn't do it anymore. But Rotarians figured out how to connect. 60% of Rotary clubs around the globe are meeting virtually. Another 18% or so are having hybrid meetings. Another percentage are doing things by phone, connecting with each other. So we have figured out how to do that. So what it says to me is that we've proven that we know how to adapt. We know how to do it. And not only did we figure out how to connect, we figured out how to keep serving. I hear all the time from clubs, even those meeting virtually, about service projects that they're doing or how they're doing things and maintaining social distance and following local and government laws. So we have figured it out. This is also the priority that says, you know, we need to look at our governance and our structure and how we deal with things. Sometimes in Rotary, we roll things over from year to year to year because that's the way we've always done it. Years ago, when I became a director nominee, I became aware that there were 67 committees at Rotary International. Are you kidding me? Do you know how expensive it is to bring people from around the world to committee meetings and to house them and feed them? So Rotary began looking at, do we need these committees? Can we combine committees? Can we eliminate and sunset some? And I am real happy to tell you that that number has come way down and will continue to come down. And we need to do the same thing in our own clubs. Look at our structures and figure out how are things happening and are we giving people enough opportunity to share in decision making? You know, I'm in my third Rotary club, and in my first club, the treasurer had the job for 37 years until he died. What's wrong with that picture? We really need to make sure that our Rotary clubs allow all members to participate in what we're doing. So the next slide is the big question. The big question is, what do we do as leaders? How do we take this action plan and bring it to life in our clubs? All right, so the next slide is a first challenge. What we want you to do as president-elects is help your clubs understand how to increase impact. If there is one strategy among all others that will help you here, it's assessment. You know, partner with organizations in your community who are already doing that. If your club has a passion for hunger elimination, talk to your local food bank because I'm sure they have information that can help you assess where your community is. And then you're able to measure what happened as you put your project in place. It's kind of like going on a diet. How are you going to know you lost any weight unless you jump on the scale at the beginning? So we really have to get better about focusing our efforts and making sure that the projects we do are addressing what our communities really need. The next slide is the challenge that says, let's expand our reach. You know, one of the things you can do here is look at other organizations in your community that share your same values. Pre-pandemic, the McMurray Rotary Club, we were having some discussions with Columbia Gas of Pennsylvania because that's an organization that's very committed to diversity and equity. And so are we as Rotarians. So we talked about doing some combined projects, bringing speakers to the local library or to the local school, or hosting international food trucks at our local Tanger outlets so that people can experience different cuisine from cultures. So we hope that as we get back together and sort of get back to some normal things, that we'll pick up those discussions. Why are we doing that? Well, you know, Rotary the COL gave us this corporate model of membership. So perhaps we may have a Rotary Club with Columbia Gas of Pennsylvania. So think about where you can tell compelling stories in your community and the groups that engage with you, and think about expanding your reach. Our next slide is the challenge to enhance engagement. This is about, again, looking at how do you deliver value. You know, I mentioned that we have a learning center. A great program for you as a club would be simply to look at the catalog of information that's available in the learning center. I'm sure there will be people in the club who may benefit by it. Think about why you joined your Rotary Club. We all come in for different reasons. Some people come in for fellowship. Think about Paul Harris, 116 years ago. He didn't start Rotary because he wanted to build a toilet block in Chicago. He started Rotary because he was lonely. He just simply wanted to get some other people together, and the service came later. There are people who look at us and say, look at all the great things that club does. I want to do that too. So they come in, they roll up their sleeves, and they want to serve. There are some that look at us and say, wow, look at all those people, all those business people. That's a great place to network. And it is. Rotary's the original networking location. And then some people look and say, yeah, years of experience here. I'm young in my professional. This would be a great opportunity for me to be mentored. So whatever the reason people come into our clubs, let's find out early so that we can target their values. What are they expecting? What are they looking for? We can look at our programs, we can look at our club meetings, we can look at our projects, and we can make sure that we are delivering value so that two things, that we become more attractive to people in our communities who want to engage with us, and that we get better at retaining the people who are in our clubs. And the final slide is the slide that challenges our clubs to increase our ability to adapt. And you will notice the very first bullet point there says, hold a brainstorming session. So Presidents-elect, this is my charge to you. One of the very best things that you can do with your club is to take these 4 priorities to a club meeting, whether you're doing it in person or online, and split your club into 4 groups. Give each group one of the priorities and ask the club in that group to talk about how do we translate that? How do we translate that to what we're doing here in our Rotary Club? You and your club members know your club better than anybody else, and you're the ones who can better determine how to translate this so that you can move your Rotary Club into a thriving future. Why do I suggest this? Pretty simple. It's a way for 2 things will happen if you do this. One, you'll get great ideas coming from your own members. And secondly, you'll get buy-in. People will feel that they've had an opportunity to provide some input. You know, we have a saying in our country, people don't wash rental cars. Well, of course not, they don't own them. So when we give people an opportunity to provide some input, there's greater ownership. And the next slide is where you'll find more information. All of this is available on Rotary's website. You'll see it there. There's also a strategic planning guide. There's a action planning course available on the Learning Center. And I don't know how many of you have used the Rotary magazine, but the last several issues have had what they call advertorials. They're full-page ads talking about one of the priorities and different strategies and objectives that can come from using those. So I will stop here. I know that there's not a lot of time left, but if you have any questions, I think Jim is going to monitor the Q&A section. I'm happy to answer them.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. I certainly appreciate all the information you just shared with us. And if anyone has a question, go ahead and put it into the Q&A box, and we will pass those along. I've heard your strategic talk before. I'm always impressed by all the points you bring up again, and I love the actual action plan here, which is split up the club into 4 groups and give each one of them a priority to start working on. I think that's a great thing for every president to be able to take back and actually motivate their club as they do that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm trying to glance through the questions. We'll be able to download the slideshow or presentation. I'll let you answer that, Stephanie, but I'm sure it's yes.
Yes, I've sent it ahead, so I'm not sure Liz Yates has it. I'm not sure who else has it, but this presentation is available. And there's also a PowerPoint presentation available on the website. So you really have your choice. The website also has flyers and discussion materials. So you really don't have to create anything. It's available for you.
Great, thank you. You mentioned before about increasing our impact and the story of Ian Risley and planting the trees, but we didn't take it far enough, as it were. And sometimes I think that's what happens locally on a lot of our projects. We do tremendous projects. Some people call it bragging. Some people just call it letting the world know actually what we're doing at that point.
You're right. We need to get better at measuring that and telling that story, because you know, we suffer from a stereotype still, even today in 2021. You know, if you ask a person on the street what's Rotary, unfortunately 7 out of 10 times you're going to hear, oh, that's that group of old guys who get together and eat lunch.
Yeah,
We
unfortunately.
need to do better.
Obviously the vision statement is there for everyone to find. By now, you might have it memorized. You should have it memorized. It's been out for a few years now, and I think you're right with the in ourselves. But you know, the whole idea that we can look globally, and we can look locally, and we can look right on down to the personal level on something like that. And you were deeply involved in creating the strategic plan. In fact, you chaired the committee at Rotary that put that together. Is there one out of the group? I mean, if we're going to start with one, increase our impact or expand our reach, enhance the participation or adapt, which one do you think is most critical to us right this minute?
Right this minute, I would say expand our reach, because membership is crucial for our organization. We are a membership organization, and our product is service. The more members we have, the more service we can do. So I think if I had to prioritize them, I think I would choose that one. Although obviously all 4 of them have great impact to a future that is thriving.
Yeah, and it's been amazing, as you mentioned, about adaptability. We didn't know we could adapt. We just had we had no clue how good we were at adapting.
I know. If you would have asked me a year ago, hey, Stephanie, set up a Zoom call and do breakout rooms, I would have said, what in the world are you talking about? But here we are. Here we are. It's not perfect. It's a trade-off. Don't get me wrong. You know, I can't wait to go back to face-to-face, but I think we're learning some lessons from this. For one, I don't know about some of you on this call, but hey, Marcy, our club dues went down. That's fabulous. And just the amount of people we can reach. Look at how many people are on this call. You know, some days I'm in 5 different countries and I never leave my office. I could never have done that pre-pandemic. So there are some good parts about virtual connection. There are some bad parts. Obviously, communication is something that suffers. Although I can see all of you, there's not really anybody that I've engaged in great eye contact. And as participants, your body language, what we give people when we're on screen is different too. So there are trade-offs. There's some good, there's some bad, but it's what we've got and we've used it effectively.
I'm going to give you one more question that came in, which is complimenting you. It's great material and direction. As a small club, this could be quite a bit to tackle all at once. How do you recommend we start? Again,
start with expanding our reach. If you're a small club, take a look at your community, take a look at underrepresented groups, take a look at young professionals, people of color, women, whatever, and see how you might be able to be more attractive to that population and to bring them in. Bring them in 2 or 3 at a time. Make the environment such that they want to stay. I always say, think about how to make your club experience simply irresistible. you know, millennials have and Gen X, they have a acronym FOMO, fear of missing out. We really need to make our club experience such that people want to come, they don't want to miss out.
Terrific. Thanks, Stephanie.
You're
And
welcome.
Marie, we're going to turn it back to you. Thanks.